Hey, what is up YouTube? It's Overlord Gaming here, and today I want to talk about why you shouldn't be buying the next Call of Duty. Now I know this is kind of a bold statement to make, and I know that it's kind of odd to make, but I personally think that Call of Duty is a terrible franchise, and that it's probably one of the worst that I've ever seen, and probably some of the worst games that I've ever played, quality-wise. Now, that doesn't mean that they're, not fun. Yes, they can be extremely fun. Call of Duty Advanced Warfare does amuse me from time to time. However, the quality of each Call of Duty game has gone down with each successor, and if you go back to something like Call of Duty 4 and compare it to like Black Ops 2 or perhaps Modern Warfare 2, the overall quality of the game was completely degraded. Now, I'm mainly referring to the multiplayer aspect of the game. In my personal opinion, I believe that the campaigns are fine. They're a generic FPS shooter campaign. Go to this room, clear out these, enemies, and it's kind of to be expected from a linear shooter. So, I don't necessarily have any gripes with it. I think they do a good job on the storyline design, but multiplayer is lackluster at best. Now, the reasons that I say this is because whenever you look at all the multiplayer experiences and all the games that they've released, each one of these has had the same problem over and over and over again. And that is lag compensation, which is very prominent within all the Call of Duties, the spawning system, which has gotten worse and then at times gotten better, and then the actual map design itself, which they're rather indecisive on. Now, Advanced Warfare is kind of an odd game to actually, state or start out with, because it's very new. It hasn't necessarily had time to, expand itself. There haven't been many patches rolled out, although I personally believe that they shouldn't release a game in a somewhat broken state. I feel that this game is basically half finished, and they really skipped out on a lot of stuff. This game isn't totally fleshed out. Now, the reason that I say this is because a lot of the times whenever I and my friends play, we have to lobby hop from 4, 5 to 6 games to hopefully hop into a lobby that we can actually play. And even then, if we start playing a game, there are times where there are huge horrible lag spikes that rubber band us all around the map and make the game basically unplayable. Henceforth, we leave instead of staying and playing in a really shitty laggy server, and then we have to lobby hop another 5 or 6 times to actually get into another playable match. Now, this isn't palpable at all. It's completely annoying, and it's extremely prominent. I personally didn't really have this problem with some of the older Call of Duties, although with this one, it seems to be probably the worst. It happened with Black Ops 2 and Ghost slightly, but it's still here within Advanced Warfare. Now, the lag compensation system is just about the same as it's been within all the other Call of Duties. It's very inconsistent. There are times where you should have killed an enemy, but because of the lag compensation system, you get cheated out of said kill, or perhaps you run around the corner and basically die because of the fact of the lag compensation system or something along those lines, and it's always been very prominent. However, I feel in this game that it's a lot worse. The BAL, which I do have a weapon guide for, and I'm going to be continuing those, it takes 3 shots to kill up close, 5 shots to kill at the longest range possible. Henceforth, at the bare minimum, it's 5 shots to kill, and I'm guessing that it has over a 600 round per minute fire rate, so it's over 10 shots per second, probably giving around I'm guessing a 0.5 to 0.4 millisecond time to kill. So that's a pretty quick time to kill, and it's more powerful than most guns in the game, and I personally believe that all the guns in the game should really be buffed up to that standard. Now, the example that I was going to point out was I have a clip somewhere. I have to go and find it, but I will definitely upload it, just a single clip, to YouTube to show you guys what I'm talking about. I walked up to this guy, shot him 6 times in the back, and you can see all 6 hit markers. He's standing still, he's turned away, he's sniping, and he doesn't die. He just kind of turns to his left and then shoots me in the face and continues on his merry way on his kill streak. Now, I wouldn't necessarily have a problem with that. That's somewhat understandable if I didn't have the actual knowledge that I do on the BAL. Now, knowing the damage model for the gun and somewhat guesstimating the fire rate at a low end, I can guess around the time to kill and the shots to kill, and it's completely inconsistent playing this game. I think it's like a 1.4 KD at the time being, because I am a rusher. I really enjoy getting up into the front lines. I can't stand playing defensively, And I tend to lose those one-on-one gunfights because it seems like half of my bullets don't ever register at all, no matter what I do. And it's extremely frustrating, and I know everyone feels the same way. Spawn system in this game is actually broken as well. If you go play something like free-for-all, you can see a lot of the times enemies will spawn beside you, or you'll spawn, to the side of them, and you can see them clearly whenever you spawn into the game. A lot of times whenever you're playing something like Team Deathmatch or even an objective-based game, you do see a lot of the times where enemies spawn basically around the corner from you, or basically spawn right in front of you or behind you somewhere, which becomes very infuriating very quickly because you get into a cycle of spawning and dying basically immediately. And I personally feel that it needs to be fixed. It feels like they left out the coding, or at least coded it incorrectly, or coding the spawn system incorrectly, making the game's spawn system really shitty. The maps themselves, I don't necessarily have a complaint other than the spawn system. There are holes in the map and there are little glitches which you can get out of. I know Detroit had a glitch where you could get out of the map and onto the rooftops, which they patched, which I personally believe should be patched in matchmaking. However, for custom games and whatnot for infection, I personally believe that it should be left there just because it's so much fun and it could give you more variety in custom games. Now, the other problem that I really have is that the maps, I don't necessarily know how to explain it. They claim that the maps would be 3-laned, and for the most part, yes, they are. However, most of the 3 lanes are interlocking. Now, I wouldn't necessarily have a problem with this, but in most matchmaking games, it becomes a very jumbled mess very quickly. I don't think it should stay in a straight line, but I think it should stay something more along the lines of the Black Ops 2 maps. I personally believe that was probably the best map set, and it was more geared towards competitive players, just because it was, you could easily spawn trap, and you could set up a strategy relatively easy for each map, and each player knew what they were going to do. And everyone knew, what part of the map you were talking about. If you talked about mid, bottom right, or, top right, or, something along those lines, they always knew what you were talking about. Henceforth, I believe that they should make the map slightly smaller and a little bit more 3-laned, if that makes sense. Having, bottom lane and then top lane, along with middle lane. So you'd have like a little underground passage underneath middle, and then something above middle, such as a catwalk or a building tumbled over or something along those lines. And I personally believe that would add in to the, playstyle of the maps, and I believe that it would make it probably more enjoyable. Now, the last gripe that I have is that really these Call of Duty games never change. People constantly pick up their games hoping that the next game will be better than the last. However, that is to no avail whatsoever. Each Call of Duty game is no better than the last, with the exception of this one, I would say. This game has made efforts to be a better game in general, but it's still hampered because of the fact of it being a Call of Duty game and them just not taking their time and working out the net coding and the lag compensation system in general. And it's also running on an older engine. I think it's running on a 1999 engine. Henceforth, it is hampered with graphics and how much the system and the engine can compute at once. So that does hinder it slightly. But if these games don't change and they keep being pumped out, every 2 years, I personally see this franchise dying in a couple of years, or at least losing a lot of its popularity. Now, these games, they're only made to be on a 2-year cycle, so whenever the new game is released, that game is supposed to die if people are supposed to move over. And a lot of times that is what happens. These games are not built to last. If you look at something like Halo, or Gears of War, or Battlefield, those games are meant to last. You still have people playing Halo 3, a very large quantity of people, although the Master Chief Collection has come out for the 1, so a lot of people are switching over to that. But Battlefield 1942, Battlefield Bad Company 2, Gears of War 1, 2, and 3, those games still have a heavy populace on them, and it's kind of surprising. So, I definitely would say that those games are better built, even comparing something like Battlefield, which, if you're comparing it on an infantry basis, is a troop shooter itself. I would say that Battlefield is the better game. And the reason that is because the lag compensation system, save for Battlefield 4, isn't as bad. Something like Bad Company 2, which is quite an old game actually now, or Battlefield 3 even, it has a lot better of a lag compensation system and even a better netcode than what Call of Duty Advanced Warfare does, and that's really sad whenever a 2 or 3 or 4-year-old game has a better lag compensation and has better hit registration than your current game, despite the fact that it is getting no support whatsoever. So I don't necessarily contribute the lag compensation problems or the delayed kills or the latency to be a Twitch shooter problem. I consider it to be a Call of Duty problem. And I would personally say that if you can refrain from buying the Call of Duty games, please do so. They're only going to continue to make these shitty games that aren't necessarily going to change. And the only thing that's really going to change is the main storyline and the campaign and the actual skin for everything else. Save for that, nothing else is really going to change. The playstyle is still going to be the same. For 3 games, it's all going to be kind of different. In some aspects, the Modern Warfare series supports more defensive play. Black Ops 2 supports, I guess, in between defensive and rusher play. And then in some cases, the Advanced Warfare series will now hold, I guess, rusher based on the type of movement that you can have. So if you're not going to buy, or if you're wanting to buy a Call of Duty game, boycott the other 2 producers, or boycott at least one of them. I would personally suggest one with the Treyarch company's games, because their games tend to have less bullshit, at least for me personally. Henceforth, I know I'm definitely going to be buying their games and not picking up any more Call of Duty games unless I hear some major, and I do mean major, changes with their netcode and their lag compensation system itself. This is Overlord signing out, and I'll see you guys next time.